I never saw it coming. My wife, the mother of my teenage daughter, tangled in an affair with her co-worker. It's a tangled web of betrayal, secrets, and a family on the brink. Dive into a raw, real drama, and subscribe for more heart-wrenching tales of infidelity that'll keep you on edge. Welcome to the messy side of love. Nothing good ever happens when you're somewhere you're not supposed to be. It wasn't my fault. I was standing at a traffic light in Fairfield when a guy in a Ford F-150 pulled up next to me. He motioned for me to lower the window. "Your tire is flat," he said. I thanked him and pulled into a grocery store parking lot on Birch Avenue. I got out and saw the head of a screw that had punctured the tire tread, and the air was slowly leaking out. Great! Now what? I decided to go in and grab a can of sealant. When I returned, I took out the screw. Big mistake. The air really began to hiss out. I put the screw back in and pumped up the tire at a gas station nearby. I was only about 10 miles from home, and I checked the tire several times. If it got too low, I planned to add more sealant. There was a convenience store about 5 miles from home, and I could see in the driver's side mirror that the tire was badly flat. I pulled in, but they didn't have a pump. It was time to test the sealant. I put it in and a little green goo came out. It stopped the hissing, so I thought it worked. I was just about to get back to my car when I noticed a pickup truck approaching. It was one of those huge trucks with giant tires. It stood so high that you'd need a ladder to climb inside. I recognized this truck from somewhere. The door opened and a tall blonde guy came out wearing cowboy boots and a huge belt buckle. I chuckled slightly, but the laughter stopped halfway through. The passenger door opened and a beautiful brunette woman jumped out. I definitely recognized her. It was Sophia, the woman I had been married to for the last 15 years. What the heck? I was parked to the side and they didn't even notice my car. It was a company car, one of those little box-shaped imports. That wasn't very noticeable. They walked into the store holding in hands and she laughed in his face. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. I couldn't breathe and I couldn't move. All I could do was stand there like a fool. Now I remembered where I saw this guy before. He worked for the same company as Sophia. She was the office manager at a medical clinic and he was one of the social workers. I saw his truck outside the clinic. The question was, what was Sophia doing with him? I couldn't remember his name. It finally came to me. Daniel Brown. The question was, why wasn't Sophia at work? I was going to find out. I returned to the car and waited. He helped her as they walked out of the store carrying cups of coffee. They drove off with a roar and I followed them at a respectful distance. They drove up to our house and he pulled into the garage. The door dropped down and I couldn't see anything anymore. I sat there for 30 minutes, but the thought of the tire made me nervous. I kept checking on it. But if it was coming down, I didn't see it. 2 hours later the door opened and they drove past me back. I held a file folder in front of my face, but I still didn't think they would have noticed. She was sitting directly across from him and they were too busy staring at each other to notice anything else. Sophia wouldn't be free until 6 p.m. and it was already 3:30 p.m. I would have enough time. First I would have to go inside and see what I could find. I had to pick up Emily at 4 p.m. and I had no idea what I was going to tell her. Emily was my 14-year-old daughter. I couldn't imagine what I'd find inside, but maybe I'd get some answers. When I walked inside, everything was quiet. I heard water dripping from the faucet I was about to fix in Emily's bathroom. It was the only sound other than the rustle of air coming out of the air conditioning vents. I looked around but didn't see anything unusual. I checked upstairs. The bed was made with fresh sheets. My heart sank like a stone. I leaned my back against the wall and slid to the floor. I felt numb. There seemed to be only one rational explanation. I must have sat there for about 30 minutes. My mind was in freewheeling mode. I couldn't seem to make sense of my thoughts and felt as if I had been drugged with tranquilizers. My stomach started to feel sick. I stood up and opened a Sprite. I felt hot and sweaty, so I went back to the bathroom. I rummaged around in the vanity for a washcloth, soaked it in the sink and rinsed my face with cold water. After washing my face, I felt a little better. Then I noticed something. The shower floor was wet. They had showered. Before returning to work, I returned to the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed that my wife and her lover had just left. I jumped at the thought and looked at it in horror. This was a crime scene. I had no idea what I was going to do. Well, I was going to divorce Sophia. This was a given. I had absolutely no idea where to start. I didn't know a single lawyer. I had no idea how to proceed and had to pick Emily up from school. Emily, what was I going to tell her? I walked to the car feeling like I'd been drunk for 10 days straight. My head was throbbing and I looked as if death had warmed me over. I was in no condition to drive, but I couldn't keep Emily waiting. I suddenly realized that she was the only person in my life that I could truly rely on. Everything was fine with my baby. I was going to take care of it. Whatever I did, I had to take her into account. As I pulled into the line of cars, I saw her waiting at the school door. She walked along the sidewalk towards the car, so beautiful that my heart sank. Emily had her mother's hair and skin dark and almost Mediterranean in appearance. She had the most amazing eyes ever seen, dark brown with streaks of gold and green. The doctor called them nutty, but I've never seen anything like it. She was tall like me, with long, dark brown legs and beauty. She opened the back door and threw her backpack in. When she sat down, she slid towards me to kiss me and froze. "Dad, what happened?" She asked. "You look sick. Is everything okay with Mom?" "What happened, Dad?" Her voice rose, and there were notes of fear in it. I had to say something. "I'm fine, kitten." I said, "Nobody's hurt or sick or anything like that. I need to talk to you. Emily. Let's go to the park and just let me hug you and talk to you for a minute." Okay. Don't ask me any more questions until we get there." "Okay, that's incredible life. Dad, but you're scaring me a little." She said, "I know, kitten, but everything will be fine." I told her, hoping it wasn't a lie. It only took us about 5 minutes to get to the park. I had pushed her on that swing 1,000 times. Sophia and I both sat on the benches and watched her play on the equipment. Happier Times was my whole life supposed to consist of nothing but memories of happier times. We walked over to one of the benches and she took my hand, swinging our arms as we walked, just like she had done since she was tiny, barely able to walk. We sat down and I struggled to find the words to begin. "Just tell me, Dad," she said, "I can handle this." "Well, I'm not sure I can." I said. The story came out on its own. I told her everything I saw, everything I felt, and tears flowed down my cheeks like a river. She held my hand the whole time, and when the fountain of words and feelings dried up, she pressed herself close to me. "That doesn't sound very good, Dad," she said. "We need to go home and ask Mom about this." I think it all depends on what she tells us. I know it looks bad, but we don't know enough. We need to talk to her. I kissed the top of her head, my heart filled with pride. My child was much braver than me. She pulled my hand until I stood up. Do you want to drive? I asked. Her eyes were shining. She had just received her learner's permit. When she thought about this, a cloud flashed through those beautiful eyes, but it quickly passed. She carefully drove home while Sophia's car was parked in the garage. It was her. She greeted us at the door, hugging and kissing each of us. You'd think she wasn't a cheating liar. Either she was an Oscar-winning actress or I misinterpreted the whole situation. Do you two want anything to take out tonight? She asked. He'll treat you. I think we just need to talk to you for a minute, Mom. Emily said, okay. Everything. Okay, baby. I don't know. Emily said, let's find out. We walked in and I sat down on the couch next to Emily. This left Sophia sitting in that disgusting chair that she simply had to have. What's happened? She asked. There was not an iota of worry on her face. How was your day? I asked. She looked at me. Curiously, everything is as usual. She said one of the pharmacy representatives brought lunch from the Olive Garden. It was quite busy and I hardly had a free minute. Why are you asking this? So you were in the office all day? Asked Emily. Of course, she said. What kind of questions are these? What's happening? So you weren't in the house with Daniel Brown this afternoon? I asked. Her face turned pale. Of course not, she said. Are you accusing me of something? James, I saw you. I told her you didn't see anything, she stammered. Now what are you trying to do? He's lying. Emily, I was in the office all day. You can ask Angela. No, I don't think he's lying. Mom, Emily said, I think you're lying. I won't ask Angela. She would lie for you. I think I'll call David Collins. Has your boss right? I don't think he would lie for you. What's his number? He got off the night shift. Sophia said I'll ask him to call you tomorrow. What are you two doing? Are you trying to trick me or something? You think you can just come here and try to trip me up? What are you accusing me of? I think she believed the best defense was a good offense. I think you set yourself up. I told her you lied. Sophia, all three of us know you lied. Why do you do it? I saw the wheels turning in her head. Okay, I was here. She said that's the reason I didn't want to tell you. I knew that you would give me the third-degree interrogation and tried to accuse me of something. Nobody accused you of anything, Emily said. Now I'm accusing you of something. You tried to make me believe that Dad was a liar. You tried to make him out to be a liar to cover up your lies. What are you lying about, Mom? Are you having an affair with this idiot? You don't even know him. Sophia said, why did you say he was an idiot? I've met him twice. Emily said, the way he looks at me makes me want to take a bath. But it does not matter. Are you having an affair with him? Sophia's eyes darted between us for a moment, like those of a trapped animal. I didn't want it to be like this. She finally said, I wasn't ready. You weren't ready for what? Asked Emily. I just fell in love with Daniel. She said. She looked at me. I'm sorry, James of the video game Subnautica. It just happened that way. You know, we work very closely together. He was there. I don't know. He is like the other half of my soul. We just connected and I couldn't help it. We are in love with each other. I was going to tell you when we were ready. As soon as we can both get a divorce, we will get married. I'm so sorry. I didn't want you to find out about it. This way, Emily, everything will be fine. You will still be able to see your father whenever you want. Daniel has a really nice place on the lake. You know, he also has a daughter. He likes you and we will be very happy. Are you crazy? Emily practically exploded. I'm not going to live with this. He would probably sneak into my bedroom at night to molest me. You all right. I will see my dad anytime I want. Because I will live with him. It's you I won't see again. How could you? She turned on her heel and walked up the stairs to her room. I heard the lock on her door click. Sophia turned and looked at me. We can get through this. She said Daniel is a really good guy. James, I think you like him. I'm sorry, but I need to be happy. Daniel makes me happy, and that's all there is. I just stared at her. Who was this woman? It was as if her body had been stolen. I had no intention of arguing or discussing anything with the dangerous, crazy woman. Whatever you say, Sophia, I said. When are you moving? Should I move out? She said, but I'm not going to. I have nowhere to go. Daniel is married and we can't do anything until we tell his wife we all have to get divorced and see how things go with the settlement before we know what we need to do. No, you're moving out. I told her I'd give you 3 days. Her jaw dropped. What the hell are you talking about? You can't kick me out of my own home. If anything, you should be the one moving out. You're forgetting something I said. This is my home. It belonged to me before I met you. It was paid for and I clearly owned it before we got married. The house is not a family property. It is mine. My name is on the document, but yours is not. No, you're moving out of my house. Where she asked, are you just going to throw me out on the street? I really don't care where. I said perhaps you could get a room at the cheating motel. Maybe one of those places that rents by the hour. You know where you've fallen. Women do the dirty work right. Her eyes filled with tears. It really hurts. James. She said there's no need to call names. I didn't try to fall in love with Daniel. It just happened. We just hit it off and I knew I needed to be with him. I didn't try to hurt you. Oh, you just accidentally hurt me. I said kind of like falling when you run with a stick in your hand and gouge out your eye. Mom always warned me about this. Now I see how it happens. Well then, everything is fine. It was an accident and there's no need to be so sarcastic about this either. She said, why can't you just accept the fact that we love each other? James. Gee, I don't know. Sophia. I said, maybe it has something to do with the fact that when I left this morning, you told me you loved me. Now you tell me that you love him. I guess I'm just a little confused. I really love you. James. She said I will always love you. I'm just in love with Daniel. Oh well then, that explains it all. I said you told me every day for the last 15 years that you were in love with me, Sophia. I thought that's why we got married. We were in love with each other. I must have been delirious. Oh no, we were in love. She tried to take my hand. I shook her hand off. You have 3 days, Sophia. If you're not out in 3 days, I'll have the sheriff turn you out and throw your stuff in the driveway, please. James. She was scared. Now it doesn't have to be like that. We can still be friends. Daniel wants to be your friend too. We need to think about Emily. I told you that I love you and don't want to lose you as a friend. We've been together too long for you to just throw this away. I just looked at her for a minute. I felt all this sadness, all this loss just melt away to be replaced by a wave of white-hot anger. You must be completely crazy, Sophia, I said, friends with you. With this idiot. I kind of think not. You need to tell that piece of crap that if he sees me, it won't be for long, just before he runs away as fast as he can. As far as you are concerned, you are the enemy, Sophia. I'm going to burn your house down. You have 3 days and then I never want to see your scruffy ass again. I'll talk to a lawyer in the morning and you can get your divorce as quickly as possible. I turned and went into the bedroom, leaving her standing there and making some noises. That's all they were to me. She followed me around, continuing her nonsense about friend. The entire time I was moving her things into the spare bedroom. She had more clothes in her closet than I could carry, so I just threw them on. Her carried the armful into the spare bedroom and hung them in the closet. She followed me. She stood there for a while yapping and watching me, but when she went to hang up her clothes, I took advantage of the situation to leave and lock the bedroom door. I heard her walk down the corridor when she pulled the handle. It didn't open and then she left. Emily texted me a few minutes later. Are you okay? Dad, yes. Kitten and you. I wrote back, no, but I will be. She said okay. I love you. I sent. Write to me if you need anything. Will you take me to school in the morning? She said I don't want to be in the car with her. Fine. I wrote. I climbed into bed and lay there for several hours trying to figure out what I needed to do. I must have dozed off around 3 a.m. when the alarm on my phone went off. I got up, took a shower and called my boss. I told him I was getting a divorce and needed a few days off. He told me to take as much as I needed and made all the right noises about how sorry he was. I went and made coffee. I had a cup or two and prepared breakfast for Emily and me. She came down right on time, looking as beautiful as ever, and greedily devoured her breakfast. After a while, Sophia came in and grabbed a cup of coffee. She tried to talk to us, but we ignored her. It was time to take Emily to school and Sophia asked her if she was ready. Emily just looked at her, turned to me and asked, "Are you ready, Dad?" I jingled my keys and she grabbed her backpack. Okay, you can act like 2-year-olds if it makes you feel good. Sophia said she stalked away, picked up her purse, gave us another glare and left. I drove Emily to school and she kissed me on her way out. I sat and watched her leave. I was thinking about my friend Dan. He had just gone through a divorce and I decided I had to call him and find out what lawyer he had used. He did not recommend his lawyer. He told me that I should use his wife's lawyer. He told me the name and I looked up the phone number. When I called, a woman answered the phone and put me on hold. After I told her what I wanted, she agreed to meet me that afternoon and I took all the usual steps. We had investments and there was little I could do about it. I could be confident that her credit card bills wouldn't increase, so I called and lowered our card limits to 5. That wouldn't be my style either, but I'll be damned if I'm going to fund her little venture. My meeting with Elizabeth Hayes did not start out very well. She made some assumptions and it was necessary to disabuse her of them before we could get to work. She suggested that I was leaving Sophia for a younger girl. You need to think again. I told her she is having an affair with her colleague. He is married and they both plan to get divorced and marry each other. I apologize. She said, I will not represent anyone who takes such actions as you speak of. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I understand. I said, we have a daughter. I want to minimize the consequences. Do you think it's possible for me to get custody of her? It's possible, she said. The theory is that either parent is just as likely as the other to receive custody. In practice, fathers rarely receive custody, especially of female children. How old is she? And will she want to stay with you? Yes, is she 14? I said this will be of great importance for the court's decision. She said, in this state, children over 12 years of age can choose, and the wishes of young children are always taken into account. If she were very young, you wouldn't even stand a prayer of having primary residence, and the fact that the 14-year-old wants to stay with you should be a major part of the custody agreement. This shouldn't be a problem. Just do the best you can. I said I was driving home and wondering what I should do. Now I was going to do something, but it had to be legal. Going to jail would cost me, Emily, and I wasn't going to risk that. What opportunities were open? You need to be careful when burning houses to make sure your own doesn't catch fire. This took some thought and planning. I suspected that his wife was as ignorant as I was, so the first step would be to tell her about it. I needed to make a list. I was, of course, going to tell her family. Sophia's mom and dad loved me and they, of course, loved Emily, so telling them was the first thing, but I wasn't sure how to approach it. Making sure all our friends are kept up to date was also on the agenda, and I thought I could make enough noise on social media to keep their lives interesting. This was the first item on my agenda. She had our family's Facebook account. I played with it a little, used the messenger a little and got my bearings. I looked online and found out that dear old Daniel's wife did the same thing. I screenshotted a few photos and posted a message on Sophia's page saying we were getting a divorce and that she found her soulmate in Daniel by posting his photo. I changed my password and logged out. It was nice. I wondered how long it would be before her friends and family started blowing up her phone and Facebook page. I was hoping that the asshole's wife would get the hint. I didn't know her and felt a little guilty about the storm that would hit her, but if she was like me, she would rather know than be ignorant. I called my mom. This conversation went about as poor as I thought it would, but despite the initial disbelief, she simply told me that she would tell Dad and that if I needed anything, they would always be there. I decided that I would let Sophia tell her parents we were close and I didn't want to be the cause of any estrangement. Either way, I had no idea what I was going to tell them. Somehow your daughter is a cheating fallen woman didn't seem like the ideal message. They would probably shoot the messenger. It didn't take long for the crap to hit the fan. Around 3 p.m. Sophia's number popped up on my phone. I answered and she got angry. You're an ass. Her opening salvo gave me great personal satisfaction. You couldn't just leave things as they were, could you? I know you blocked me on Facebook. You will clean up this crap. Daniel's wife doesn't know. All my friends called me asking what happened. My parents know. I'm telling you, James, cut this crap. No, I said you're not my boss. What are you? 5 years old? Take it away. James. Why, I asked. You should be happy. This way everyone can get used to you and your significant other. Are you embarrassed that people found out you're cheating, Sophia? She fell silent. Apparently she realized the absurdity of what she was about to say. James, please take this away. It wasn't supposed to be like this. You lost all ability to choose what it would be like. The second you cheated, I told her any right to attention, any claim you had to my respect or even politeness has vanished like smoke. I told you the enemy. Now, Sophia, get used to it. I ended the conversation. My phone immediately rang again, but I ignored it. It was time to pick up Emily. I told her the result of my conversation with Elizabeth Hazen. Although she was happy that she was likely to be with me, overall she was not at all happy. "What's wrong with her, Dad?" she asked. No. I love her, but she was always a little crazy. I never really felt like she was an adult, at least not like you. It always seemed like you had the children, Car and me. Have you ever noticed not like that? I said, now that you mention it. She's always been kind of impulsive, but she's always been like that. I never thought she would do something like this. Well, just have to make the best of it. She said, "Dad, I never want to be in the same house with this bastard without your presence. I don't care what you have to do. Just make sure it doesn't happen." Okay. I will do everything in my power hour. I promised. We bought pizza on the way home and I was just enjoying my second slice when my phone rang. It was Bob, Sophia's father. I wasn't looking forward to it. I'll be delivering important papers to James during the campaign, so I won't be involved in his campaign, but I'll get to see some of the behind-the-scenes action. This will be so much fun. I felt my heart shatter again. I know I heard Emily say she plans to end the affair so we can have a baby, but I can easily imagine her being unfaithful again in anticipation of being on the campaign trail. And if she gets pregnant, who's to say it will be my child? James is approximately my size and color. Without a DNA test, this would be very difficult to determine. My rage began to rise, but I suppressed it. Now was not the time. Amanda began talking to Emily about her new position in the campaign. They soon became engrossed in conversation and I was forgotten. I took this opportunity to pull myself together. After tonight, I'll start planning. I needed to somehow counteract James's political power, but, to be honest, I had no idea how to do it. 2 days later, the answer came to my office. "Your meeting for 4 is already here." My administrator called through the open door. I looked at my Outlook calendar and didn't see anything booked before I could answer. She came in. Amanda Williams. "Hey, John," she greeted. As she entered, her long auburn hair flowed over her shoulders. She wore a light sundress that showed off her gorgeous legs and strappy sandals that hugged her legs almost to her knees. Her breasts were modestly covered, with no cleavage, but the material pressed against her chest in a suggestive manner. 2 thin straps held up the dress, leaving her arms bare. I was speechless as I watched her enter. "I hope you don't mind," Amanda began. She closed my office door behind her. "I told Mary that we had a meeting to discuss my career and how Emily was working for my father." I politely rose from my chair. "I'm glad to see you just working on some reports." I motioned for her to take one of the chairs in front of my table after she sat down. I sat down too. "What did you want to talk about?" The happy expression suddenly disappeared from Amanda's face. "I think you know, John. I saw it in your face when you talked to my father. I'm really sorry that he's ruining such a good guy." I was stunned. This was not what I expected. "What are you talking about?" I asked carefully. Amanda blurted out. "This bastard, known as my father, is having an affair with your wife." I sat back in my chair when it was said so bluntly. "Did you find out recently?" Amanda asked softly. I nodded. "I'm really sorry. How did you find out?" I asked. "About 3 months ago." Amanda admitted. "I don't know when it started, but I found out about it in June. One Friday. I came home early and they were holding one of their meetings at our house. I was having a late lunch with a school friend and I popped in to drop off my things, say hello and leave. Dad asked when I would be home and I answered that it would be after dinner. It turned out that my friend got sick and couldn't come. I had a snack and went home there. I saw Dad and Emily having sex in our jacuzzi. I took photos and even filmed them running naked into the house. There was a full foot of snow on the ground. Did you take pictures of your father having sex? I asked in shock. I was also wondering if I could get copies of the photos. This would be very helpful in a divorce. As if reading my thoughts, Amanda reached into her bag, pulled out a large envelope and placed it on my desk. Here are photographs from that day and several others. She paused and grinned. Dad installed a security system in the house. The entire exterior is covered in several interior rooms of cameras. If you know the site and have the key, fob and password, you can access it from almost anywhere. There is a flash drive with video recordings. I was shocked by this. James's daughter conveyed to me everything that could be needed to divorce and destroy her father. Why, I asked. The sad expression on Amanda's face turned into anger because he was a bastard. She said quietly, I hate him more than you ever could. I didn't say anything, but waited. After a moment she spoke. Dad met Mom when she was a college student. He was an aspiring lawyer assigned to the sex crimes unit in Portland. Mom came to study from Ireland. Her family was well off but died in the London area bombing. She came here to get away from the turmoil. Her voice took on a soft note that she probably picked up from her mother. Mom was dating some loser who hit her so hard she ended up in intensive care. Dad was entrusted with her case. They met. The loser went to jail and a year later they got married. My father was always ambitious. He got a smart, beautiful woman with an exotic accent. He gave me homework that included spending significant time with Sophia and she worked hard to wear me down. James, what will it take for you to give up on the divorce and deal with this? She asked. God's providence. I told her. She waited for me to explain it, but I didn't say anything. What do you mean by action of God? She finally asked. Well, if you have a way to turn back time and get rid of dear old Daniel, it will work. I said, other than that, I have never heard of anyone other than God having such power. Have you developed any abilities that you haven't told me about, Sophia? Well, except for the ability to attract other men with your feminine charm. We wandered on the dull exercise, gave way to a meaningless mantra, and finally they were over. We went back to court and the judge asked if we had made any progress. Your Honor, there is no way that my client intends to remain married to his wife. Elizabeth Hayes said we would like this divorce to be finalized as soon as possible. My client and his daughter have been involved in this process for quite some time. Apparently, the judge agreed because 10 days later the ruling arrived in the mail. Emily saw her mother quite often, as she loved her grandparents and spent a lot of time with them. Sophia sometimes planned things that Emily would agree to do with her, but it was never the same. She was hanging out with her friends and one in particular seemed to be at the top of her list. She was a tiny blonde named Emma. It seemed like she practically lived with us. She was as cute as a month-old kitten and sweet as honey. I was happy to have them and they started including me in some of their events. One of the things they loved was water skiing. We had a boat and when the summer holidays began, we spent most Saturdays on one of the nearby lakes. On Monday they asked me if we could go to the lake for the weekend, take our van and stay there until Sunday evening. Since my social calendar wasn't exactly full, I thought this was a great plan. Emily and Emma spent a week planning, and on Thursday we packed everything they wanted. On Friday afternoon, a new red Jeep Cherokee pulled up in our driveway and Emma jumped out. An almost identical woman jumped out from the driver's side, and Emily walked over and threw herself into this unknown woman's arms. She and Emma brought the stranger to me. She was clear. "Nervous, Dad?" Emily said, "This is Hannah. She's Emma's mom, and I know you haven't met her yet." Hannah extended her hand. "Hello, James. The girls told me so much about you. Thank you so much for inviting me to come with you this weekend. To tell you the truth, I was a little jealous that they spent so much time with you and not with me." She smiled mischievously at me, and I immediately understood why her daughter was such an adorable little mix. I looked at Emily and she gave me a glare. My knees were shaking and I knew when to give in. The shaking intensified as I looked at Emma and she raised one eyebrow at me. "This will be amazing," I told Hannah, speechless. "We always have a great time." She wasn't stupid. She looked from me to the girls, then back to me. "Oh my God," she said, "you didn't know, did you?" The girls didn't have time to say another word. They buried her under an avalanche of hugs, kisses, and pleas. "Please, Mom, don't worry about it. We'll have so much fun." Emma said, "It's okay. Hannah, Daddy will love you as much as I do. And he's a great guy." Emily said, "Look how he just holds on." She pulled herself free and looked at them. "You two go sit on the porch and I'll go talk to James." She said they showed some reluctance, but she said now they took her words seriously and hurried away. "I'm so sorry, James of the video games of Nautica. I had no idea." She said, "I'm going to take Emma and leave. She will be punished for a month." God, this is so awkward. She looked so small and embarrassed that I stepped forward and hugged her. She tensed at first but then relaxed. "Yes, it's embarrassing," I said. "They are very naughty, but you and I both know that there is nothing wrong with them. Let me guess, you're single." She looked up at me and laughed. God, she was cute. "No, that's not true. Do you think that's what it's all about?" "I'm almost sure." I said, "That's the problem. You've packed your things. You've cleared your weekend. The lake is going to be great. I'm not a bad guy, as you know from talking to Emily. Let's play along. It will be fun. We could tweak them a little. What do you say?" She stepped back, looked at the expectant faces of the girls and said, "Yes, let's go." I gave them a thumbs up and they jumped to their feet, running over to join us. I heard Emily running enthusiastically. Yay, I stopped then and took one under each armpit. "Girls, that wasn't very nice," I said. Emma looked up at me and giggled in her best skeleton voice. She said, "I'm not good." It made us all laugh and I couldn't continue. "They were just too sweet and too innocent. We know what you're trying to do," I told them. "Stay put." "I'm serious. You can't just beat around the bush trying to make other people's lives better." "Yes, but I owe Hannah and I didn't know how to introduce you to her," Emily protested. Well, you could have just told me," I said. She looked a little sad. "It's okay, kitten. Just don't do it again," I said. She immediately perked up. Emma pulled my hand. "Let's go. I cannot wait. It'll be great, James. You'll see." Hannah laughed. "I think that should be the extent of what's truly cool." "James, she's right, though we are losing daylight." We took 2 bags out of her Jeep and climbed inside. We tied up the boat and, after stopping for propane, hit the road. It was a half-hour drive to the lake and Hannah sat in the front next to me. The girls started playing some terrible music through their Bluetooth connections and we got to know each other. It turned out that Hannah had her own insurance company and was also a financial planner. I noticed her when I looked at her while talking. God, she was cute. I thought Emma would look exactly like she did when she was Hannah's age. She looked quite a bit younger than me, and it turned out that she was 3 years younger. She was probably a little over 5 feet tall, had light brown hair down to her lower back and a nice tan. She had huge brown eyes, high cheekbones, and a perfect little heart-shaped face, including a dowager's hump on her wide forehead. She was wearing jeans and a button-down top, but she was slim and lithe. I didn't want to make fun of her, so I didn't really pay attention to her until we got to the lake. We had permission to park the boat and then the van. They kicked me outside while they changed clothes, and in the meantime I turned on the water. They came out when they finished changing and I went in, put on my swim trunks and t-shirt, and we were ready. We grabbed a cooler of drinks and hit the road. We ran a couple of miles down the lake and they were ready to ski. Their long t-shirts were off and the girls were their usual awkward selves. Hannah was someone else. There was nothing awkward about her. I said she was slim, but she was tiny. She was a real woman. When she turned to watch the girls leave through the back door, I nearly lost my mind. Her bikini hugged her stunning ass. It was small, round, hard, and protruded forward W like a shelf. She turned and caught my gaze. She just smiled and winked at me. She had tiny breasts, but anything else on her would look weird. They didn't look tiny on her, so they were just perfect. Everything about her was perfection. In miniature, like she asked. Her smiley's the pain. Her teeth were also perfect. I laughed. For now you know what you look like. Hannah, I am a man. She came and sat down so that she could talk to me and, at the same time, look after the girls. We spent 3 hours skiing and Hannah was very good. She steered the boat while it was my turn and she was good at that too. I wasn't as good as her or the girls. Physics was simply against me, but I stood my ground. We returned to the park and they put on their robes. The van had a great stove, but the girls wanted to cook outside. We took out a camp stove and I lit a fire in the barbecue on the side. I fried the sausages while they cut and fried potatoes and opened cans of pork and beans. We cooked and packed a few things at home, but it was our first night, and camp food is always delicious. We sat down at a picnic table provided by the club and soon it felt like we had known each other all our lives. Hannah became Jules. That's what the girls called her, and she liked it, and she called me James. The girls mentioned several times that Jules wasn't married and I finally asked her why. I mean, God, you're gorgeous, funny, smart. You own your own business. Why hasn't some man picked you up? Yet she was silent for a moment. Well, the main reason is Emma. She finally said I was young and stupid. James. I was in my last year of college and thought I had the love of my life. I found out I was pregnant a week before graduation. I wasn't too unhappy. We talked about getting married as soon as we finished school. I guess this plan didn't work, since you're talking about it. In the past, since I said no, that didn't happen. 3 days after I told Brad I found out that he had been cheating on me for a month. I left him and never looked back. When Emma was born, I didn't have time for a social life for a while and then I threw myself into building my business by the time I could catch my breath and even think about dating. I realized that I had this precious gift from God in my life and I couldn't do anything without thinking about her. I understand, I said. I feel the same way about Emily. As long as I have her, It comes first for me. I can't tell you how important she is to me. She is all that has kept me sane for the last 18 months. She put her tiny hand on my shoulder. I know. She said she tells Emma and me everything. I'm so sorry. James. Yes, sometimes life is a real pain. We both kind of sighed. We looked up and saw approving and loving eyes looking at us. They spoke in whispers, sitting on folding chairs in the shade of the awning. I love you, daughter. I told her. It seems that she is almost mine all the time she spends with us. She loves you too, she said. She told me the other day that you're like the father she never had. When I looked at her, those huge brown eyes filled with moisture and a tear rolled down her small dark cheek. I brushed it off with the back of my finger. She's a wonderful girl, I said. I think her mother is a very special woman for raising such a girl. She is also very brave for doing this alone. She smiled with her tear-filled eyes, stood up, kissed me on the cheek and went to join the girls. We had a great weekend and as she was getting ready to leave our house, I walked up and knocked on her window. Jules, would you think about going out with me next Friday? I asked. Emma squealed with delight and Jules smiled her dazzling smile. At what time? 6 p.m. I asked. We'll have dinner and then do something else. Okay. Oh, can Emily stay with him a while we're gone? It sounds tempting. And of course, yes. She kissed me on the cheek and they left. Emily was waiting for me at the entrance. Well, she asked, did you ask her out on a date? Did you kiss her? I hugged her and spanked her ass. Yes, I did. And it's none of your business. She squealed the same sound Emma made. I knew it. She's perfect for you. Dad, I love her so much and Emma is like a sister to me. I shrugged. What happens? Emily, you can't force it. Stop playing matchmaker. She buried her face in my chest. I know, Dad, but you are never going to do anything other than just love me, unless I did something. It's not that I don't like being the ornament in your life. I laughed. Well, you will always have a place in my heart that no one else can touch. You are my baby and that will never change. She purred and cuddled up to me for a minute, then went off to do her own thing. Our first date went well. I took her to play racquetball. She was new to the sport, but she played tennis and the mechanics of the show shots were much the same. Once she got used to the rules and started bouncing off the walls, she did well. Being a natural athlete certainly didn't hurt. She was fast as lightning and could change direction much faster than I could. This is where being tiny worked to her advantage. After we finished, we cooled down at a table outside the courts, drank, and relaxed. She grabbed her phone. Let's take a photo for the kids. She said we posed with our rackets and goggles and she took a photo. They responded immediately and we had a good memory. We both took a shower and I took her out to eat. It was very tasty Italian style and we stuffed ourselves. We finished the wine. Jules sat next to me in the booth and we just sat back, talking quietly and relaxing. It seemed natural to me to hug her, so I did. She pressed herself close to me and smiled up at me. I thought again how cute she was and realized that she would always be cute. It was something that wasn't supposed to change with age. She leaned towards me as we approached her house and looked up at me expectantly. I could tell she wanted me to kiss her, so I did. I wanted to kiss her even more than she probably wanted to be kissed. It was long and very tasty. Her lips were plump and soft and tasted like wine and cherry chapstick. As we moved away from each other, I noticed the curtains move. I think we have an audience. I said. She giggled much like her daughter, or maybe her daughter sounded like her. I'm not surprised. You know they're trying to set us up right. You do not mind, do you? I asked. She blushed. No, I like everything I know about you. James, me too. I said we better get in there before they tear down the curtains. We met every Friday for 4 months. We were getting closer and closer, and I wanted to take our relationship forward. I didn't want to push her, but it got pretty hot at the end of some of our sessions. I also discovered that I enjoyed having her as a friend almost as much as I enjoyed having her as a girlfriend. We talked on the phone constantly. She would reply or text me with funny little things or just a few words several times a day, and I would do the same. I would see or hear something, and I knew it would make JWS laugh, so I had to share it with her. We became very close, and I knew everything about her life, just as she knew about mine. We started having dinner together every Tuesday, and we would just hang out, play games, and I was almost as in love with Emma as I was with her mother. They were very similar, and if you knew one, you knew the other almost as well. There were subtle and significant differences, but they were both absolutely charming. Life was wonderful, and the only thing that marred it was Sophia's constant presence. She was still a part of Emily's life, and therefore willy-nilly mine. I wanted nothing to do with her, and her appearance irritated me. She always tried to talk to me every time she came to pick up Emily or I took her to her grandparents. She still lived with them. She lost her job with Daniel at the clinic and worked at another private one on the other side of town. If she annoyed me too much, I would ask her if she had heard from him. This quickly stopped her attempts. How long will it take you to forgive me? She asked on one of these occasions. Forgive you for what I asked. As far as I know, you don't believe you did anything wrong. Not once did I hear. I'm sorry, James, of the James Sutmaticums. I was wrong. I'm sorry that I tried to make Emily believe you were a liar. I'm sorry that I tried to take her away from you, tried to rape you in the divorce, and what's worse is that I never once heard. I'm sorry. I cheated and had sex with that creep behind your back. I didn't hear it then either. She could not take any responsibility for her actions. I really didn't know what forgiving her would entail. I was reconciled and at peace. I didn't forget, but I'm sure I didn't mean to spend a minute grieving over it. People have the right to do stupid things. They have the right to divorce. You leave. You end their friendship with you and you just accept it and move on. People do shitty things every day, in the heat of the moment. I wanted to punish both traitors, but I quickly went beyond that. Their punishment was that they were who they were. They had to live in harmony with themselves. I fully intended to live with myself, and that meant leaving the lies and cheating behind and living my best life. Sophia was an unhappy woman, and I really wanted everything in the world for old Daniel, but I couldn't do it. Let God or the universe punish them. I quit this game. She became even more unhappy when she found out I was dating Jules. I took Emily to her grandparents for the night, and she came out to the car and stopped me. I heard you're dating the mother of one of Emily's friends. She said. I just looked at her. Is this true? She asked. It's my business. I said, damn, it's not like that. She snapped, and your wife and I have the right to know your license is crap. I told her you are not my wife. You found your soulmate and it wasn't me. Remember. And then something happened that is called divorce. My business is no longer yours and yours is not mine. Off, Sophia. Don't poke your nose into my affairs anymore. When I left, steam came off me. Damn, this just wouldn't leave it alone. I told Emily what happened. She was just as furious as I was before that. I took Emily to her grandparents and Sophia brought her to our house. Now it's over. Bob or Cindy. Her grandparents would come to our house and pick her up from then on. This eliminated a major source of stress in my life. On the 7th anniversary of our trip to the lake, I took Jay Wes out with me. We went to a nice restaurant and a club. She drank little, only beer from time to time, or one sip. She had 2 children. That night, I raised an eyebrow when she ordered a second one. She laughed. Yes, I'm wild and crazy today. Huh, you are perfect, as always, I said. Do you really think so, James? She tilted her head to the side, as usual, because I think you're pretty perfect too. If I'm so perfect, why didn't you invite me to stay the night? I must have looked pretty scared because she laughed. Haven't you even thought about it? I found my presence of mind. Yes, Jay Wes. I haven't thought about anything else since that first day on the yacht. When I saw you in that bikini when we started dating, I realized that you were something different, something special, and I didn't want to pressure you or scare you away. You won't scare me away, she said. I told the girls not to wait for me really. So what are we doing here? I asked. Oh my God. Jay Wes, let's get out of this place. Do you want to spend the night with me? She blushed, took my hand and allowed me to pull her to her feet. More than anything else right now, she practically melted into me as we walked out and leaned over to rest her head on my shoulder and held my hand the whole way home. I let her out when we pulled into the garage and she cuddled with me all the way to the bedroom. I turned her around at the foot of the bed and kissed her. It was one of the most incredible kisses I'd ever had, and it just went on and on. When we stopped to catch our breath, she looked up at me and I drowned in the warm brown pools of her eyes. She put her arms around my neck and looked into my eyes. Make love to me, James. She said, I'm a little afraid it's not worth it. I told her I love you, Hannah Barnes. You know that, right? I thought so, she muttered, but I needed to hear it. I love you too, James. I pulled her towards me and unzipped her little blue dress. I did it slowly, running the back of my fingers along her back, and she winced as I felt goosebumps from on her skin. When I reached a small depression in the small of her back just above her buttocks, I stopped and stroked her there. She shuddered again. Her skin was like ice, and I reached up and pulled the dress off her shoulders, down her chest and over the curve of her hips. She wasn't wearing a bra. She didn't need it. Her breasts were small but perfectly shaped and suited her figure. Large breasts would look weird on her. They seemed much larger than they actually were due to her height. She was covered in a golden tan and I could tell she was sunbathing topless. I turned her around and sat on the bed, holding her at arm's length, so I could look at her. I was right. She was perfection, in miniature. She was wearing little blue lace panties and was an adorable Audic doll. I pulled her towards me and pressed my cheek against her elastic belly, wrapping my hands around that fantastic ass. God, this was the feeling I had dreamed of. It was round, firm and smooth. I stood up and in rest, almost tearing the buttons off my shirt in an attempt to press my skin against hers. When I was left in only my shorts, I took her in my arms like a child. I would bet she didn't weigh 1 pound. I carried her to the bed, wrapped my arms around her neck and carefully laid her on the bed, and we wore our passionate embraces into each other. She ended up deliciously naked in my bed. She looked like an erotic angel. Her blonde hair spread out like a halo across the pillow. I moved to get a better look and taste, but she grabbed me later. "James," she said, "I'm ready and I'm all on fire for me. It was such a long time ago. I need you now." I didn't argue with her. I was completely naked and she gasped when she saw my manhood. "Oh my God. James, take your time. Baby, I've never had anything like this." "How many have you already had?" I whispered in her ear. "3. She muttered, "But never anything like that." At first we made love very slowly, getting used to each other, but when things went faster and faster, it became louder. Her whole body began to move, and I found myself in the sex of the century. She was so active, i.e. so athletic, and she put everything she had into love making. Just like everything else in life, I knew I wouldn't last long, and it's a good thing. She was on edge. Just when I couldn't hold it in any longer, I felt the tension in her body peak and explode. She squealed hellily and pressed herself against me, screaming out her passion. As I exploded, with her pouring into her what seemed to be my soul, we swayed and moved together, finally slowing down and stopping. I leaned over her, supporting some of the weight of my upper body on my elbows, and we kissed for what seemed like hours, mumbling about our love. I've never been softened when I caught my breath. We began the dance of passion again. We fell asleep in each other's arms, and twice that night we made love again, once on my initiative and once on hers. The next morning, I woke up lying on my back, with an angel half prostrate above me. Her hair covered dust and her cheek rested in the hollow of my shoulder. I just watched her sleep, placidly playing with her hair, until she opened her eyes. She pressed herself against me and moaned, "My place is here, James, the video game Subnautica." "I know," I said. "Would you like to wake up here every morning?" She opened her eyes and looked at me. "You mean like living together?" "No, honey." "Well, yes. But I mean, will you marry me?" "Hannah Barnes." She raised her small left hand between our faces and moved her fingers. "Nope," she said. "It seems like something is missing." "Hold that thought," I said, and began to get out of bed. "I can hold this thought," she said, "but I can't hold anything else. I need to go to the toilet." "So bad." I laughed and slapped her ass, making her squeal. "Go then, and we'll meet here." She ran away, a little naked fairy. I went down to my office, stopping to use the facilities myself. I took what I came for from my safe, and when I returned, she was curled up under the blanket. I climbed inside and took hold of that left hand. Again, I looked into her eyes and saw only love there. "Hannah, will you marry me?" I put the ring on her finger. It was too big and we would have to resize it, but this will do for now. She picked it up and looked at it. "This is wonderful," she said. "It looks old. Where did you get it? When did you receive this?" "Remember, I told you that I was going to the auction?" I said it was about a month ago. "Yes, I remember they were auctioning off the estate." "Right. Yeah. What I didn't tell you is that I saw this ring in a catalog and went out with the intention of buying it and asking you to marry me. It was made in England around 1810 for the Duchess of Avon. It has a long history. Do you like it?" "I love it." She said, "This is the most beautiful ring I have ever seen." "Are you going to answer my question?" I asked. "Oh, yes, James, James. Yes, I will marry you." "Oh my God." "Yes," I laughed and squeezed my bride in my arms. "We need to notify the girls." She said we called them over and they practically jumped for joy when they saw the ring. Emily and Emma hugged us and we celebrated our engagement. Thanks for tuning in to hear James's incredible journey from betrayal to finding love again.